Well, Jane, thank you very much. Greetings, everybody. My name is Mike Florence. I'm with KIS. I've been associated with the company for 18 years, going on 19 years. I guess you could say I found a home. For those of you who are unaware, KIS, we've been in business mainly in Northern California, but we have a reach nationwide since 1988. And I think that speaks volumes about our ability to service our customers given the current temperature and profile of IT needs out there, be it from building white boxes back in the day to moving people into virtualization. And today we're seeing a lot of cybersecurity activity, cloud activity. Again, our consulting services have a very deep bench of technical individuals at KIS. And with that being said, today we have Chad with Barracuda, who's going to present to us and highlight on what is a growing trend that we're seeing in cyber security threats, ransomware. And it caught me by surprise. I thought email was the number one culprit, but apparently it's no longer number one. So with that being said, Chad, are you ready to go?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hang on,
Let's
hang on.
yes, let's start with the fireside. Sorry, trivia question. Don't
Okay.
forget about that.
Oh,
Sorry, Chad.
No, no, no.
Let's launch it. And let's launch our first trivia question. Go ahead, Mike.
all right. Barracuda trivia question number one. According to Verizon Data Breach Report, what is the number one threat vector? Phishing emails, misuse of privileged accounts, malware, or web applications?
All right.
All right. How are we doing?
Yeah, we're getting up there.
We're getting up there.
Yes. So let's do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and poll and share the results. Yes, a lot of people said phishing emails and malware.
Well, I can attest I get plenty of phishing emails every day. So,
Is
so
that correct?
well, it depends on what our friends at Verizon Data Breach Report said.
Yeah. So actually, the folks that said phishing emails, email has historically been the number one threat vector, and it's that way for many, many years, right up until the Verizon Data Breach Report that came out, I want to say in 2022, and actually web applications had eclipsed emails as far as for being the number one threat vector. Do you still need to protect your email? Yeah, absolutely. Do you still need to filter it? Of course. And we'll talk about, some of the reasons why and some of the recent attacks. But actually, according to the Verizon Data Breach Report, web apps have actually been number one for a couple of years now. So, yeah.
Interesting.
The world is evolving.
It constantly, hourly. So, all right. So, Chad, are you ready to launch into it?
Yeah, I am. So let me get the poll out and let me share.
And this is
am I not a host? Because I don't know that I can I don't see the option to share here. Or wait a minute.
You are the host. Yes.
I am?
Yep.
Okay.
you got promoted.
Oh, right here. Yeah, here we go. Sorry. As you were.
No.
All right, there we go. Okay. So now you guys can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Perfect. So we'll put it into presenter mode and we'll get into this. What I want you guys to do is if you guys have any questions, if you can throw them in the chat. I think Josh is able to see those, and what he'll do is he'll stop me, he'll ask me, or Jane, same thing. If you can see those, just stop me and ask me. But what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about the anatomy of an attack. And I want to talk about a couple different types of attacks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about email, and then I'm going to talk about web apps. All right. And you're probably thinking, what does this really have to do with anything? These sound like two separate topics, but I promise I'll tie it together. So, real quick, a little bit about Barracuda. So we actually we protect people, data, apps, as well as networks, and we do this for more than 200,000 organizations worldwide. And Barracuda has partnered with KIS for a very long time. It's a very long-standing relationship. I want to say that the KIS partner number is it's maybe double digits. It's very, very low. I know that for a fact. We've been a partner with KIS for a long time, and they've been a great partner of ours and helped us to reach some of these 200,000 organizations worldwide. So for that, we are absolutely grateful to them. And one of the reasons why KIS enjoys working with Barracuda is the fact that we are providing cloud-first security solutions that are, one, easy to buy, easy to deploy, and easy to use, right? That's what we all like, right? That's that was Staples with their easy button.
Yeah.
That's what we try to do. We try to take complex problems and we try to solve them with user-friendly and simple solutions, right? Typically, your simple solution is going to be your best solution, right? Because if it's too complex, then that leaves room for error even at the deployment phase, let alone the administration phase.
You bet. And one other thing, Chad, Barracuda has always been a great company to work with, and the support that Barracuda provides for their end users has been it's just a pleasure to work with. I can't say that about all manufacturers I've worked with, but
Unfortunately not.
Barracuda has been extremely strong in multiple areas, but support definitely is a key. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. So whenever we look at Barracuda and the protection that we provide, right, for our cloud connected customers, we can provide protection at the network layer, at the email layer, protection of data, as well as your applications. And we'll talk about a little bit of AppSec towards the end of this presentation. So when we start to look at email, right, if we go kind of back in time, you had your spam, but then we started to see malware. We started to see URL phishing, scamming, spear phishing. This is the one that was super effective at getting through, right? Because of the fact that they weren't targeting everybody in the organization. So it wasn't this volumetric attack where you could block it, just based upon volume. But it was this very specific attack to a very specific user with very specific information, and so it was highly effective. And we started to see brand impersonation, domain impression, blackmail, right? This is where they're like, we've been recording your webcam, pay us in crypto unless we're going to release the footage. Conversation hijacking, as well as business email compromise. Those are incredibly dangerous, and the reason that they're so dangerous is because whenever you're talking about business email compromise, this is a message that is actually coming from Barracuda, right, to KIS, right, as an example. It's where somebody's actually compromised my account. They're sending, literally as me. The only difference is that it's not my fingers on the keyboard. And so those are very, very tough. And so then we start talking about conversation hijacking. This is where you've had a conversation, you've got a thread going with somebody, and then the bad guy who's in there, he spins up a domain that looks similar, and then he takes a snippet, the thread that you already have existing, and he's like, oh, you know what, now I need you to pay the money into this account, right? Lateral phishing, right? This is where somebody's in your organization, they start phishing across your organization, and then account takeover. Again, huge, huge problems, right? These are very complex attacks. And we've seen this progression, right? And so, what do you do, right? And what's going on? Well, number one, why do they do it? Well, they do it because it works. They do it because it's easy, and they do it because, unfortunately, people are the weak link. I say that they're the weak link in here, and I just mean from an attack perspective, right? And the thing that makes people let's call it an easy target for these bad actors is the same thing that makes people great, right? People are great because they want to help. People are great because they have concern for the folks that they work with and their teammates, right? And so what happens is those great aspects of people are actually what makes them, makes them vulnerable to bad actors, because the hallmarks of these attacks that are so successful is the fact that it's somebody that and then there's an urgency. And so instead of thinking about if you should do the thing, you start thinking about how you can do the thing in the time that this person that needs this thing to be done in. And so the reality is that nobody wants to fight a machine, right? We would much rather, try to go against a person. And so the reality is that, people are susceptible. They're susceptible to, their desires to help, and their desires to be useful, and their desires to achieve, as well as they're also susceptible to fatigue. And we'll talk about that later on when we start talking about MFA fatigue, right? But the reality is that, people, the things that make them great are also the things that the bad guys exploit. So it's terrible, but the reality is that it's actually a lot easier than you might think, right? And so if we wanted to go fishing, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to go and we're going to find the targets. And so because of the fact that I want to pick on any organization, I'm going to pick on my organization, right? I don't want anybody to feel singled out or targeted in this. But so here we go. So we pop over to LinkedIn. And if I want to figure out, well, who's the CEO? Well, Hodam is the CEO, right? And who processes invoices? Well, I could scroll through here and I could see who processes invoices, right? And so now I got the players, right? And so then what do I need to do? How do I become Hodam? Well, it's a lot easier than you think, right? Here we go. I pop into Google. I tell Google that I'm Hodam. I create a Google account with the display name of Hodam, right? But in reality, maybe my bad actor is actually my partner here. So I've got technical enablement for the West, and he's got technical enablement for the East, and so this is my buddy Ty. So anyway, so here's Ty. Ty spins up an account that says that he's Hodam, and then then he goes through and now he starts sending out that email. Well, how is that email going to get past traditional email security? Well, it looks good, right? It's coming from Gmail. Gmail is a valid domain. If you look at this message, there's no attachment, there's no malicious links, there's nothing, right? So this is the message that's just going to slide right through. Again, legitimate domain, it's not blacklisted, innocent text, no malicious attachments, none of the actual hallmarks, right? And so then, of course, what's the user that receives this message? Oh, sure, boss. How many gift cards do you need? What do you need? Blah, blah, blah. And they're actually going to go about sending that. And here's an example. This is unfortunate, but this is an example of somebody where they actually they fell for this, right? It's terrible to say, but the reality is you don't want to be that person that learns the hard way. So when we start to look at traditional email security, well, why is it not sufficient? Well, it's just looking at those high reputation senders. It's looking at the 0-day links. It's looking at malicious payloads. All of the things that Barracuda does with our email gateway defense, that's what traditional email security does. However, that's not enough, right? So regardless of whether you have Proofpoint, Mimecast, Microsoft, Barracuda, whoever you have, the reality is that you need more than just gateway defense. You need inbox defense, right? Because those social engineering attacks, those things are just going to slide right by, right? Because of the fact that all the traditional hallmarks are there. So what you need is a greater level of inspection. And this is where we talk about, actually leveraging API integration. So having a solution that integrates with the APIs in 365 to do that deeper inspection, right? So this is a banana, and all 4 of these images, it's a banana. So this is what a banana looks like to us. That's what a banana looks like to X-rays, to MRIs, and to a CT scan. You notice that you're getting different information based upon how you're inspecting this thing. And so my point is that we need a higher level of inspection. So a tool that Barracuda can offer you, and you can reach out to any one of your KIS reps and they can actually help you to run this tool. But this is called an email threat scan. And what it does is it actually looks at the last 12 months worth of your email. We're not keeping your email. We're not selling your email. We're not reading your email, right? You're the one that gets emailed this report. And so what happens is that we leverage, and I want to draw this out right here and right now. So the buzzword is AI, right? Artificial intelligence. That's the buzzword. That's what you hear in all kinds of marketing. That's what you hear in the news. You hear it everywhere. Chat GPT and OpenAI, and Microsoft has Copilot, and there's all these things, right? So AI is a big deal. Apple's coming out with their own that's going to be released with, I think, with the new iOS offering with the new iPhones. But My point is that as of right now, we don't actually have true to definition AI. We have ML, machine learning. And so what we're doing here is we're taking machine learning, we're taking these different classifiers, and we're actually applying that machine learning to the last 12 months worth of your email. And we're actually building a profile for everybody in the organization. And then we're calling out when there's either A, a departure from that profile, or B, some sort of an anomaly that doesn't line up with historic events, right? And so that's how we're able to bubble these things up, and we're able to show you. So again, I would encourage you guys all to run this scan, right? Everybody that's got their mailboxes hosted in 365, run this scan. Again, you're the only one that gets emailed this report. And then work with somebody from Barracuda, work with somebody from KIS to actually go through this report and help you understand the information that's in the report, but then maybe be able to present a solution where you can actually enjoy that AI, or so protection, with machine learning. Another phrase that I got from a guy actually at Netscope, or no, NetSpy. Sorry, Netscope is different. NetSpy is where they'll actually analyze ML code to make sure that it's safe, and some other things. But he said that if numbers can make it, numbers can break it. So the reality is that even though we're using machine learning to be able to thwart the attacks of these bad guys, the reality is the bad guys are starting to use ML as well. If you've noticed in the messages that you get, the language seems a lot more natural. There's not all the terrible grammar and misspelling and punctuation mistakes, all the hallmarks of traditional stuff. The reality is that again, the bad guys are getting better at crafting these attacks, but the good news is that we're basically fighting fire with fire, and we're also using ML to be able to capture these attacks. And so if you look at the analysis, it's saying that this email is making an unusual request to the recipient. How do we know it's unusual? Well, again, we've looked at the last 12 months worth of this person's email at least. And then we're also noticing that the reply to address is not Terry Murphy's typical. Notice that typical address. We're not saying it's a bad address, right? If it was a bad address, it would have got caught at the gateway. What we're saying is that we know Terry, and from what we know of Terry, this is not their typical address. And again, this ML classifier is catching this and flagging this as a problem, right? And in this case, if they were to have Barracuda impersonation protection, it could throw that in the trash, it could delete it, it could do a number of things with that message, but again, automatically and without admin intervention. So again, what's the secret to our behavioral analytics? Well, we just start to kind of correlate things. We start to put the pieces together. And again, while email itself is incredibly random, even within an organization, even if we were to look at the emails in KIS or in Barracuda, right? Jane's emails look different than my emails, right? They look different from Mike's emails. So the reality is that while the email itself is random, people are very much creatures of habit. I use similar language when I'm talking to people. If I Josh is on this call, if I were to send an email to Josh, dearest Mr. Paredes, he would know that absolutely didn't come from me. And so would our machine learning. They would know that that's not how I talk whenever I talk to him. And so we're able to protect against those business email compromises. So even if somebody were to log in with my username and my password, whenever they start sending those messages, it's not going to look like it's coming from me. And so then those things are going to be captured, right? So that's kind of how I see things evolving. And as far as for kind of the future of attacks, I suspect that people are going to use these natural language libraries, right, to be able to leverage machine learning to be able to craft better and better emails to where they look more and more like they came from the person that they're actually trying to impersonate. So the reality is these attacks are going to become more frequent, they're going to become more sophisticated, and they're going to look more and more natural, right? And so therefore they're going to be much more difficult to detect. So my point is you need to look at greater protection, right, in order to truly consider yourself protected. So with that though, I know that I think Jane has some more questions. If you guys have any questions, pop up in the chat. I don't know, Jane, Mike, Josh.
I'm good.
Okay. All right. And then Jane, I don't know, did you want to, do we have a second question here?
Yep, let's do this.
All
Let's have
right.
a second trivia question. Here you go, Mike.
All right. Barracuda trivia question number 2. What are the top earning attacks? Ransomware attacks, business email compromise, target specific exploits, credentials stuffing, wow, or social engineering attacks.
So while you guys are answering that, our old CTO, Fleming, his product that he owned at the time, he wasn't our CTO at the time. He was actually a product manager for our web app firewall. This is back in 2010. He had a statistic that said that that basically, ransomware, right? At that time, ransomware made more money in the US than illegal drug sales worldwide.
Wow.
And that was in 2010. So anyway, I'm not saying that crime pays and you should maybe look at a career change, but I'm just telling you that it is highly lucrative and these folks are highly funded. So I think, do we have 100% of people have answered at this point,
Yep,
Jane?
yep. I'm sharing you the results right now. So 67% said ransomware attacks, which is business emails and cryptojacking, phishing, and follow up about social engineering attacks. Chat, what do you think? Is
Yeah,
that
no, that's good. I've got a slide. I got a slide here coming up where I break this down. So when or go away. There we go. So when we start looking at web applications, so like we talked about a minute ago, you see that web applications have actually eclipsed email when according to the Verizon data breach report here. And so whenever we break it down, these are the earners, right? This is where the money is coming from. So those of you guys that said phishing, spear phishing, so that's 44%. So that's good. And then what was it? There was here we go. So this was 0 days, but this is 0 days of web, right? So if we just look at the actual web attacks, this is the actual breakdown, right? This is where the money is actually coming from, right? These are the things that are making you money. And so the piece that I want to really kind of drive home is the fact that that this is something that is not uncommon, right? You can look at Talos, Twilio, um, also whenever we look also the MGM. So I don't know if you guys were on here whenever I was talking, but so I live in Las Vegas. I've been there for about 2 years now. My fiance and I, we bought a house a year ago. But my fiance, she actually works at Park MGM. She works in the box office at the Dolby Live Theater. And so I was on the road when the MGM attack happened. And of course, I see it because I subscribe to a bunch of different newsletters and things like that. So I see the attack happen and I didn't even think about it, but Nikki was at work. And so anyway, so she sends me this text message and I was in a meeting, so I couldn't really talk, but she sends me this text message. She's like, everything is down. Like we can't get anywhere. We can't get out. We can't, and anyway. And so she's like, we can't run reports. We can't do anything. And I told her, I just kind of laughed and I was like, well, you know why, right? And then, so then I just send her the news clip that I had read about the attack on MGM. But it was really interesting. Does anybody on here, do you guys know how, and this is kind of an eye chart, but do you guys know how that attack actually happened? Anybody?
I know, but I'm highly curious.
So all it took, yeah, because they've since changed the policy, but all it took to change a person's credentials is you just had to have the employee's name and the employee's birthday. So the bad actor called into help desk, MGM help desk, and they got their MFA reset using an employee name and the employee's birthday. That was it, date of birth, and a month and day, not even year, right? Because you give away the year, and now you're giving out PII, person identifiable information. So just with the month and the day, that's all you needed. So I could say, I'm Chad Haskell, and my birthday is June 6th, and then boom, then my MFA gets reset. So now I have an MFA authenticator, right? Because they were using, they did the attack on Okta, right? So Okta is their identity provider, Okta is still MGM's identity provider, but at the time it was Okta. But anyway, so now with Okta, now the bad actor, I'm able to get my MFA reset. So now I'm logged in as Chad Haskell with the Okta authenticator, all courtesy of help desk, because of the fact that I knew a name and I knew a birthday. That was it. And so anyway, so that's how the bad actors, that's how they were able to get in and do all of the bad things that they did. And basically, because of the fact that they didn't have a backup of Okta, and so every time they would stand up their Okta instance, and every time they would stand up servers, they would realize bad guys were still in there. Something similar happened to Caesars just a month before that, and Caesars, they paid the money and they went on. But we're talking about tens of millions of dollars that it cost MGM, because one, it wasn't just MGM in Las Vegas, it was MGM global.
Right.
And so all of the comps that they've had to give away, right, just to let people know, hey, sorry about the inconvenience, blah blah blah, because slot machines are down, people couldn't get into their rooms, there were all kinds of havoc that was wreaked by this. And so the reality though is that the bad guys are going to continuously try to get in and try to exploit. And so my point here is that you need to take as many steps as possible. The reality is that Microsoft tells you that you need MFA, and yeah, MFA is great, but again, it's not the totality of it, right? If I send, and I'm going to pick on Josh because Josh is my friend, and that's what I do. I pick on my friends. But if I send Josh 1,000 MFA requests, at some point in time, he's going to get tired and he's just going to click one of them just to make the noise stop, right? And the reality is that people will do that as well. So, MFA isn't the totality of it, right? And we start to see this move. I'm sure you guys notice, there's a move to apps, right? Everything is an app. Why is it an app? Well, the reason why it's an app is because one, if somebody's got an app, maybe it's, I don't know, some of the ones I have up here, like Dutch Brothers, right? So, my fiance again, Nikki, she's like, oh, well, it's sticker drop day. It's, it's double points day. It's whatever, right? But the reason that everybody wants you to have an app is, again, because it makes it very sticky, right? Also, not to say that they're doing this, but to say that, they have the ability to do this. Once they put an app in there, now think of how much more information that they have. If you just go to somebody's website, right? Maybe they know where you are. Maybe they know what operating system you're on. Maybe they know what browser, they absolutely know what browser you're using, right? But that's it. That's about all the information they can get. I mean, is there a little bit more? Yeah, there's a little more information that they can get, but they're limited in what they have access to. But as soon as they get you to install an app on your phone, now they've landed. Now they're absolutely in the promised land, right? Because what does your phone know? Your phone knows everything. It knows where you spend your time. There's screen time reports that are available on your phone. It knows where you've been. It knows what you do. It knows so much about you, right? And so I'm not saying that these companies are bad and that they're harvesting that data. I'm just saying that with this toehold that is this app, now there's a whole lot more that is behind that, right? And so the bad guys know this too. And so the bad guys are starting to move forward to start to exploit this. And so whenever we start looking, so the reality is that many people, the majority of organizations out there, they have a website that is more than just a vanity website, right? However, the vast majority of those folks that are out there, they're not using a WAF. And even the minority, the few people that are using a WAF to protect that website, they don't, the majority of those people, so the majority of the few, they don't even have their web apps in an actual active protection mode. So this is an actual .gov website. I'm not going to tell you what it is, right? But it's an actual .gov website. So it's a city, right? And if you put in their address, .gov, and you do a /admin, it'll take you to this login page. So this tells me, while this login page may be fortified, they absolutely don't have a WAF up there, right? A WAF properly configured would take you right back to the home page. You wouldn't be able to sit here and try to brute force this login, right? This is a government site. This is a large reseller, right? You do a /admin, or you could do a /WP admin, right? Word or WP-admin if it was a WordPress site. And again, it takes you to the login page. So that's a large reseller. This is a small reseller. But the reality is that they're not protecting themselves with a WAF, right? And why? Why do you need to protect yourself with a WAF? Well, at minimum, what a WAF is going to do for you is it's actually going to obscure, right? So all of those websites, I can tell you, what those websites are running. One of them was IIS. Two of them had, they were using an older version of jQuery where there's a known exploit. And I know all of this because of the fact that they're not running a WAF. So if I wanted to, I could leverage one of those existing jQuery exploits and I could, do something, to that site, right? The reality is that I don't want you guys to feel bad, right? Any of you guys that are listening and you guys have something more than just a vanity site, but you don't have protection, again, don't feel bad. So this is the Open Web Application Security Project. This is what they do, is web application security, but yet they had to release this notice just a few months ago saying that data had been leaked. Well, what was it? And I don't want you guys to read in here, but basically it was 10-year-old data. The data that was on there that was collected by the bad guy was from 2006 to 2014. Now, mind you, this just happened a couple months ago. So the newest data on there was 10 years old. So is it really a problem? Probably not. But the reality is that it is data, right? I've had the house that I have in Clovis, I've had it for, more than 20 years. And so the reality is that, maybe they have, my name and my address, or they could have, they don't, but they could. So anyway, so not to say that 10-year-old data is worthless, but just to say that, it's a little less significant than, current data. What is it? Life 360, they just had a breach literally just a few days ago. So recent, in fact, that I haven't even dug into the details about it. But my point is, and that's another app that a lot of people have on their phone, my fiance included. But anyway, my point is here, and where I don't want you guys to feel bad, is again, this happened to these people that all they do every day is to think about web application security. But the reality is, it was an old server. It was a server that probably whoever was administering that server is no longer around. And nobody just got around to taking it down, right? And so my point is that if you start to leverage something like a WAF, right? The WAF is going to go through, it's going to look at your domain, it's going to find all the subsites, and then it's going to go through and it's going to actually show you what resources are out there, right? So it's a good in the way of a discovery tool. But let's talk a little bit about an example, right? When we were talking about ML earlier, bad guys using ML to impersonate people, Barracuda using ML to be able to try to thwart those attacks. But what does ML look like in a web app, right? Well, how many of you guys have gone to a website where you can upload a picture and it'll tell you what that picture is? So that's using machine learning on the background. They've got these image classifiers and things like that that can actually tell you what that is. And one of the things that happens is we use ML because it's good and because it's quick and because it works, and it saves us a lot of time. However, here's an example of what bad guys can do with ML. So a bad guy can take that image that you see on the left, they can perturb it, right? They put a mask over it, right? And then now you look at what the classification is. So it went from a vase to a cat, right? Now you and we look at this and we go, oh, that's adorable, right? Or, that's preposterous, or whatever. But the reality is, let's take this into the real world. What if I could, with, let's say a big bank, maybe the bank that used to be a water company years ago, right? What if they're using AI, and what if they don't have a WAF? And what if I'm able to figure out, what kind of libraries they're using, what kind of ML that they're using. And then because of the fact that it's largely open source, I grab that version of that, module, and then I take it and I apply a patch to it, right? Where if I'm wearing a specific pair of sunglasses, whenever I walk up to that ATM machine, now I'm a super user. And so I go to deposit a check for $40 and I tell it that it's $40 million, right? So the reality is I could do that. I could apply that patch to that machine learning, and all kinds of bad things could happen. So what do you do, right? What if you had help? Well, the reality is that uh, from Barracuda, we have WAF as a service. And again, I'm a data protection guy. Like I was talking to Mike at the beginning of this, and I was saying how I came from Yosemite Technologies, and Barracuda acquired Yosemite Technologies in December of '08. And so I've kind of grown and progressed a little bit. But the reality is that at my core, I'm a data protection guy. But I can tell you that within about 8 to 20 minutes, I can have our WAF as a service up, and I can change my host file on my machine to where just for me, I'm able to view your website through WAF as a service. And what's really cool about that is once I stand that up for you, then you can have somebody that is familiar with your website. You can have them make that same change to their host file. They can go through and they can validate that all the pages load right, all the fields load right, and everything is correct. And again, this we're talking about a few hours, right, at this point in time. And then what you can do is you can actually make change to your DNS so that we start passing real traffic through there. Again, not in an enforcement mode. We're not at all risking this money-making machine that is your website. However, our WAF as a service can start to give you guidance. It can start to look at these things and say, hey, you know what? We don't need to allow 256 characters or 1,000 characters for this first name field. We could limit that to 48 characters based upon the 30 days worth of traffic that we've seen. We could limit that down. So we start to give you guidance. And then, what if this, we're literally, just minutes away, where you actually have your website, you're able to see what's going on, you're able to see what's happening, you're able to take the guidance that's been given to you and apply that guidance to increase your security posture, and have the peace of mind of knowing that you can put this into enforcement mode and not break anything, right? So that's the deal. The reason the reality is the reason why the majority of people don't have a WAF is because, one, they don't necessarily know that they need one. Two, they know that they know based upon stale information that WAFs are incredibly expensive and they're incredibly difficult to configure. Now, I say it's stale information because it's not the whole truth. Are there WAFs out there that are very expensive and very hard to configure? Yes. Yes, there are folks that offer that. There's a reason why there's only a 4% adoption of AWS WAF, right? Because AWS WAF is less of a house and more of a stack of 2x4s and nails, right? You very much have to put it together. Does it work? Yeah. Do you have to put it together? Yes. Is what Barracuda offering you a house that you can immediately begin to live in and take comfort from? Yes. So anyway, so what I want you guys to hear is that there is a great need. There is growing frequency and complexity with these attacks. And I would hate to have you guys go any further without having as much information as I'm able to bring to bear. So with that, I thank you guys very much. I would encourage you guys to reach out to whoever your KIS reps that you guys normally deal with, and just let us show you. You're not committed to anything, and we can just kind of show you what could be, right, and the protection that you could enjoy. So with that, though, I want to open it up if anybody has any questions for me. If they'd like me to backtrack a bit or drill in, I'd be happy to do that. But with that, though, I thank you guys very much. You guys have been great. I appreciate all your participation.
Chad, great presentation, and your analogy regarding 2x4s and a hammer, it did hit home. That was great.
Perfect.
So I don't have any questions. Shane, do we have any other questions?
No, no, not. I think we don't have any questions. If anyone out, from the audience has any,
Jane, I'd
please
like to
chat
throw this
them.
question out if real quick.
Yes,
Just I
perfect.
know because I know Chad, you showed a nice screen earlier about like an email threat scan. Is there a scan that people can use for applications as well?
Yes, yeah, we do. We have we have an existing scanner. It's the Barracuda Vulnerability Manager that they can actually scan. And what it'll do is it'll go through all the OWASP top 10. So OWASP, that was the organization I was showing you guys that had to announce that they had a breach.
Yep.
But the top 10 that OWASP talks about, that's like SQL injection, credential stuffing, things of that nature. Making sure that nobody can patch and things of that nature. So those are the big ones, and we can actually run that scan for you. So we have that tool available, and I think we're actually in the midst of swapping that tool out. But the bottom line is the underlying scanner. But the reality is that we do have and we will have scanners that can actually scan your web apps and give you a report that will tell you if there's simple credentials, or there's maybe something that is unprotected, or something where it is vulnerable to any of those OWASP top 10. So there's a lot of good stuff that you can get. And again, that's a free scan, just to let you know where you're at.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you, Josh.
So, and Josh, you mentioned that KIS and Barracuda have been partners for a while. I just want to throw it out that I believe we've been partners for 18 plus years.
Yeah.
Been a long time.
Yeah. All right. Is anyone else has a question? If not, we can let you out earlier.
There you go. Time back is always good.
Yep.
Yes. Thank you so much, Chad, Mike, for presenting today, taking your time. Please shoot us an email. There is a survey at the end of the shot. And also, Barracuda will be attending our customer appreciation event, which is on October 4th, Friday. Please come and shake their hands. It's free for customers, and please come and greet us. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
All right,
Jane.
guys. Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Perfect. Thanks, everybody.
See y'all.
Appreciate it.
See you, Josh.
Bye now.